Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled, What If TCU Went West and the System Misread It? In the late 1990s, TCU made a choice that does not exist in real life. And before we go any further, let's be clear, this is alternate history. In this universe, TCU did not wait for the Big 12. They didn't lobby Texas power brokers. They didn't chase geography. They went west. And what makes this story interesting isn't that TCU succeeded, it's that everyone else thought that the move didn't matter. That assumption quietly reshaped conference alignment for the next 25 years. And now we need to set the table for the decision that felt small. By the mid 1990s, the Southwest Conference was effectively gone in spirit. Texas football is consolidating power, and TCU can see the math forming. Too many schools, too few chairs. So when TCU hires Joe Tiller, they're not hiring a recruiter, they're hiring a systems thinker. Tiller doesn't sell nostalgia, he sells visibility. And in this alternate timeline, TCU accepts a football-only invitation to the Big West Conference in 1996. At the time, this looks bizarre. Texas media mocks it, boosters complain about Idaho and Nevada trips, and the Big 12 barely reacts at all. That indifference is their first mistake. And that sets the table for the moment people remember wrong. Every alternate universe needs a moment that feels real. Here's the one people remember in this timeline: 1998, late December. A Big West affiliated TCU faces a ranked USC team in a late night bowl game that kicks off after 10:30 p.m. Central. Most of the country's not watching, but on the West Coast, TCU wins. Not a blowout, a clean, modern, uncomfortable win. A fourth quarter touchdown, a final defensive stop, and the quiet realization that this Texas school looks like it belongs out west. This game doesn't change the polls, it changes perception, and that's the remembered moment. Now you may be thinking to yourself, would the Big West ever actually take TCU? Yes, because this is still the 1990s. The Big West is desperate for media markets, football credibility, something that isn't just California mid-majors. TCU doesn't dilute the league, they anchor it. This only works before 2000, which is why this universe matters. And that sets the table to the Pac-10 doing absolutely nothing. By 1997, Pac-10 administrators are aware of TCU, not as a candidate, but as a category program. They don't fit the map, but they don't lower the brand. So the Pac-10 studies, they delay, they wait. And in this alternate history, that hesitation has consequences. Because while the Pac-10 waits, TCU proves something dangerous. You can exist outside legacy geography and still matter. And you'd be thinking to yourself, wouldn't the Pac-10 just invite them? No, because Pac-10 identity matters more than utility. TCU is useful, but the Pac-10 does not see them as one of them. So the Pac-10 keeps its hands clean and loses initiative. And that sets the table for how the Big 12 misreads stability. And this is the ripple that shows up somewhere else. With TCU no longer in Texas alignment politics, the Big 12 feels calmer. No pressure, no awkward expansion questions, no Texas-based irritants. Schools like Texas Tech wrongly interpret this as safety. They invest inward. They stop cultivating external leverage. And ESPN reinforces the illusion. Inventory looks clean, nothing's breaking, so the Big 12 assumes the system is stable. It isn't. It's just quiet. Now you may be thinking to yourself, isn't this just delaying the inevitable? Yes, and that's the point. The delay trains the Big 12 to expect silence instead of warning signs. That's even worse. And this sets the table for when the Big West ends. By the early 2000s, the Big West can't sustain forever, even with TCU. Travel costs rise, membership fragments, In 2001, the Big West announced it'll stop sponsoring football. TCU leaves, not in crisis, but by design. Just like in real life, they do spend short stints in Conference USA, then the Mountain West, where they do what TCU always does, whether in real or alternate universes. They become structurally necessary, also mirroring real life. By the time the Big 12 expands in 2012, TCU is not begging, they're invited because the system remembers something it did not understand at the time. And you may be thinking to yourself, doesn't this just end up just like real life anyways? Yes, but the path matters. Because in this universe, TCU exits Texas politics early, trains conferences to misread stability, and normalizes quiet repositioning. The destination is familiar, the geometry is not. By 2025, this alternate timeline produces a very strange truth. TCU didn't cause realignment chaos, they showed what it looked like before anyone was watching. The Pac 10 waited, the Big 12 relaxed, and when the exits finally came, they were louder, messier, and way more expensive. And you may be thinking to yourself, so did TCU win? No, they survived. And survival in college football is the most disruptive outcome of all. This was alternate history, but it's built on real incentives, real timelines, and real mistakes. TCU didn't break the system, they stepped out of it, and everyone else misunderstood what that meant. And if you enjoy these kinds of quietly disruptive what ifs, where institutions make reasonable choices and the system misreads them, hit like, it helps more than you think. If you've got a school, a conference, or a moment that felt stable at the time but maybe wasn't, drop it in the comments. And if you want more stories where college football history bends without breaking, subscribe. You're in the right place.